FSA BB30 MTB crankset installation. BB30 frame inspection and BB30 bearing assembling steps are the same for road and MTB bicycle. For correct BB30 crank installation, verify the frame BB shell specification is compatible with the BB30 system. Installation of BB30 crankset in a non-BB30 bottom bracket, BB shell, will result in damage and failure of crankset. BB30 frame inspection. The bottom bracket shell of the BB30 frame should be inspected for proper diameter and bearing seat alignment before crank installation. The inspection can be performed with BB30 shell ID Go, no-go gauge, BB30 bearing seat alignment gauge. BB30 shell ID Go, no-go gauge. The BB30 shell ID Go, no-go gauge quickly verifies the bearing seat diameter is within specification for proper bearing fit. Ensure the surfaces to be inspected are clean and free of debris, dirt, or excess paint. The shell ID Go, no-go gauge is two-sided. Insert side labeled Go into the right and left side of the BB shell. If the gauge does not fully insert into either end of BB shell, the BB shell has an undersized inner diameter and cannot be used until reamed to the proper diameter. Insert the side labeled NG into the right and left side of the BB shell. The gauge must not fit into either end of BB shell. If the no-go side of the gauge fits into the BB shell, the inner diameter is oversized and cannot be used. BB30 bearing alignment gauge. The BB30 bearing alignment gauge has two parts. The gauge quickly verifies the bearing seats are in alignment with each other. If the bearing seats aren't aligned, the bearings will bind when the crankset is installed. Insert shaft with handle into left or right BB shell opening. Slide the opposing side of the gauge onto the shaft. If gauge binds or needs excessive force to fully seat within BB shell, this indicates the BB shell is not aligned and cannot be used. Cranksets installed in a frame out of BB30 tolerances shell will not move freely and wear BB30 bearings prematurely. FSA BB30 MTB crank installation instructions. Tools. Frame preparation. Ensure BB shell surfaces are clean and free of debris, dirt, or excess paint before bearings installation. Apply a thin layer of grease to the inside surface of the bottom bracket shell. Do not face or machine BB shell. It is not necessary for BB30 system. BB shell CIRCLIPS installation. Using the CIRCLIP pliers, insert the CIRCLIPS into the machine CIRCLIP groove in BB shell. Always wear eye protection when installing or removing CIRCLIPS. Ensure CIRCLIP is fully seated in groove. BB30 bearings installation. Using the FSA bearing installation press number EE037 and 32 mm wrench, press one BB30 bearing into BB shell until it is butted against the CIRCLIP. Do not over-tighten the installation press or the CIRCLIP may get damaged and need to be replaced. Install the opposite bearing using the same procedure. Note that both right and left BB30 bearings are the same. BB30 bearings must be installed aligned with frame BB shell. Bearings installed not parallel may cause prematurely bearing wear and BB shell inner surface damage. Compatibility of FSA BB30 MTB crankset. FSA MTB cranksets are compatible with 68mm and 73mm BB shells. For 68mm BB shells, use the included 2.5mm spacer and non-drive side bearing shield. For 73mm BB shells, do not use 2.5mm spacer and non-drive side bearing shield. All spacers and bearing shields are supplied with the crankset. Do not use more spacers than included, or it can result in damage to the crankset, accident, or injury. BB30 left arm and preload nut preparation. Preload nut is pre-installed from factory. Ensure preload nut has a thin layer of grease on the threads and is completely screwed against the left arm before installation. Preload nut must also have set screw and circlip installed. FSA BB30 MTB crank arm installation. Apply grease on spindle surface where contact bearings, as left photo. 2.5mm spacer is for 68mm BB shell only. Install the drive side aluminum bearing shields on the spindle with machined grooves facing inward and flat side outward. Apply a thin layer of grease on machine grooves of aluminum bearing shields. Completely insert the right crank arm and spindle through the BB30 bearings. Apply light layer of grease to BB30 bearing already installed in the bottom bracket shell. Position non-drive side bearing shield over left bearings with machine grooves facing inward toward the bearings. Non-drive side bearing shield is for 68mm BB shell only. Install the left crank by precisely engaging the spindle insert of crank to spindle. Thread self-extracting crank bolt into spindle using a torque wrench. Tighten crank bolt to a torque of 38 to 41 Nm. Adjust preload nut with FSA BB30 tool, number E0210, or 36mm spanner wrench to a torque of 7 to 9 Nm to remove any play between crankset and BB assembly. Tighten preload nut set screw with 1.5mm Allen wrench to a torque to secure preload nut.